GI shelter half. Army surplus. Seen a few better days, but this is the first day of fall officially here, and so we thought we'd come out, set up the shelter half, build a fire, kind of enjoy life out here in the woods for a while. The shelter half was a pretty good way to keep from getting soaking wet if you're out in the rain at night. It's cheap. I remember when I got my first shelter half tent, I think I paid $3 for the whole thing. Nowadays they're about $20 for 2 shelter halves, Army surplus, and still a pretty good system. I've got it set up just right now as a shelter, kind of as a lean-to. Tried to set it up so that the back of it was toward the wind, but the wind shifted 3 times since we got here today, and so we're getting a little bit of smoke inside. You can see I've got the tarp laid down here on the ground, kind of as a ground cloth. Rained here last night, it's a little bit wet, so take you a quick tour. First of all, we found a couple of conveniently spaced trees, and over here then, we stretched a ridge line across the top of the shelter half. Now the shelter half has a set of buttons as well as a set of buttonholes. And when you have the 2 shelter halves to put together as a tent, this is how you button the 2 halves together. But when it's buttoned as just a single shelter half, what we can do here is undo these buttons and then button them around the ridge line, and you can see then that holds that securely around the top so that the top doesn't sag. There's a whole row of those buttons across there, about 10 of them. Also, we have a couple of well sewed on little tabs here, that the little loops that we use when the shelter half is in the pup tent configuration to hold it up. I've also just snugged that up against the tree here to keep the shelter tent from sliding along on the ridge line. Now in the back we've got a stake down with 3 stakes. There's little loops that are sewn in for that purpose. And then on the sides here, we just let these hang down. These provide quite a lot of blockage for wind as well. You can see if I get in the shelter half, I got room to stretch out in here. I'm about 5'6", and so I'm going to have room to stretch out here tonight, make my camp here. Got to be careful if it rains. You don't want to touch the inside of the tent very much. So I think I'm going to have to scoot up a little bit this way to avoid touching the inside. Another thing too, we want to set the tent up in such a way that the smoke blows away from it. As of right now, it seems that no matter where we go, the wind kind of curls around and the smoke kind of comes back in my face here. So that's going to be a bit of a problem, I think, no matter what way we set it up. But we'll be just glad to have the fire for the light and the warmth tonight, rather than being out here in the cold and the dark. This is the Professor, and I'll see you soon.